higher.
All right, it is finally that time. That beautiful music sends us into what is going to be probably the best golf week of the year. I couldn't be more excited. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, friends. This is the PGA DFS live before lock, the Masters. Awesemo.com. We are ready to get after it. I am Ben Rasa, and I am here joined by my partner in crime, Eric Lindquist. But it's the Masters, so all hands on deck. We have brought the man himself into the show. Alex Baker is here as well. Alex, are you as excited as me and Eric for the Masters?
I was pretty excited, but then right before the show, you told me you're taking down all three Millie makers. That's what I was hoping to do. So a little bit of the wind has been taken from my sails, but still excited to be talking some golf with you guys.
Listen, that is true. I am going to sweep the Millies, but Alex, I know you would agree, and Eric, I believe you would too. There's a crypto punk out there, so there is more than Millies up for grabs. We have all sorts of contest chat. I know you guys are ready. We are going to dive into it. Before we get to the golfers, we got some things to talk about. I'm going to be talking throughout the show. We've got great deals. We've got some fun giveaways, and we've got our friends at Monkey Knife Fight who are sponsoring the show. And if you haven't been over there, they're player props based contest, easy to play, not a huge time commitment, and it's not just golf. So if golf isn't your thing, it should be. But they've got NBA, they've got UFC, esports, soccer, all of that is available over on Monkey Knife Fight. Go get started. You choose your contest type, your buy-in level. Very, very easy. monkeyknifefight.com. And when you sign up, use the promo code Awesemo. You're going to get an instant first match deposit bonus of up to $50. Definitely go and sign up today. But we are going to dive into this. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to start with waves, weather, and withdrawals. It's really not a huge issue. We've only got 88 players. Eric, before the show, you were saying this. 88 players, the tee times are kind of just right up, up and down. General question, do you like that? This is like kind of a non-cut with there still being a cut.
Yeah, there's not, I don't like it. I don't like this is probably the only thing about the Masters that I don't like is that just in terms of making the cut, everybody, for the most part, is going to make the cut. And if you have anybody that is one of your higher owned golfers who doesn't, you're in deep, deep trouble. There is no cashing a lot with, there's no high cashes with 5 guys making the cut this week. That's just so difficult to do. So you're looking at more than half the golfers in the field, top 50 in ties, all advancing in to the weekend. So being able to figure out who to fade, who is going to miss the cut out of the top end is almost as important as figuring out who's going to be top 10ing.
No doubt about it. I mean, Alex, same kind of similar question to you. Like I said, half the field isn't there. So when you're looking for pivots, you're looking for things. This is kind of a unique course in a lot of ways and a unique event. But what do you feel about, we got 88 players and 15 of them are kind of made up.
Definitely, yeah. The field is so stacked, and because the top 50 get into the weekend and the Masters, I'm looking through these cut percentages. They are a little bit higher than your typical week, but the top guys still are in that 80% range. So it's not a given that your favorite golfers are going to make the weekend. So I think we might have a nice cut sweat, and of course, with the field sizes, you're going to need to get all guys in top 20 probably. So it'll be really interesting to try to peg those guys, especially the cheaper ones that might crack the winning lineup.
Yeah, for people who, may just be playing golf for the first time and whatnot, it's a little different. So we've got 88 players. It's top 50 in ties. The Masters used to have a rule where if you were within 10 shots of the lead after 2 rounds, you also got in. That is gone. So it's just a straight top 50 in ties. Pretty good percentage, but as Alex just talked about, not everyone is getting through. Withdrawals, we really don't have anyone of note. I mean, Angel Cabrera is in federal prison in Brazil, but no one was going to play him. Eric, were you surprised that Brooks is going to give it a go?
No, because it's the Masters. If you're going to give it a go any given week, I mean, we saw Tony Finau dislocate his ankle, put it back together on the spot, and play 2 days later, or excuse me, the next day. We saw that with the par 3 challenge when he made a hole in one and put it together. So you game out for this as well. Dustin Johnson, we don't have like a stare incident this year, no stare gate. So that's exciting as well to not have to be dealing with some of that. But I always wake up early because I know Jason Day is somebody that I'm going to have a little bit more exposure to than the field, and you just never know how he wakes up in the morning. But for the most part, I think we're looking pretty clean here outside of Brooks, who I think probably makes for an easy fade just in his current condition.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to give it a go, it looks like. But other than that, I mean, Alex, did you look at anything with the weather? For me, it looks pretty standard. There may be a little rain, but are you incorporating anything in that regard into your lineups this week?
No, I guess not. But it's always interesting to take a look at. So, since the Thursday AM plays Friday PM, like it kind of negates that early morning advantage that we typically see. So there really has to be some special read you have on it to be able to play that, and I don't really see anything this week.
Yeah, there's not a ton really going in. Again, I'm not going to get too technical, but apparently Augusta has sub air, not just on the greens, but in the fairways. So if they want to dry it out, they can dry it out. That's something, again, who the hell knows, but if they want it to be firm and fast, it will be. And that's what I expect. And we're going to get into that. Last thing with this, just in general, Alex, I'll go right back to you again. Do you look to stack up? I know a wave but even within a tee time, like, do you look for the guys that are playing together and maybe a group can get hot and go that route? Or is that just something more in general that you're not really concerned with?
It's an interesting concept, I guess, but it might be more fun to sweat than to sweat in DFS or to play in DFS, because obviously you might be able to see them all on TV. But the thing is, there aren't really any correlations in golf outside of just the weather effects. And if we aren't pegging anything for the weather this week, that's going to be really tough to pull off.
Anything else, Eric, on the weather side? Waves, for me, this is a pretty non-event. It's straight up, and that's how I kind of want it to be.
Yeah, and I think it just makes it easier to not have to consider it in a bunch of your tee times. I mean, it's nice when you get something like an Open Championship that there's a distinct advantage, and in large field GPPs, not everybody is accounting for that. But it's also kind of nice in this situation to just be able to build, play your guys, and move on.
No doubt. One less thing to kind of worry about. Let's go to the major mindset. Let's talk about Augusta a little. But before I do, again, I said at the top, we've got some giveaways, and we do. So this one is Twitter. You go to our Awesemo_com Twitter handle. All you have to do, it's pretty simple. Just reply to the pinned tweet with who you think is going to win the Masters this weekend. You have a chance to win an Awesemo Plus Platinum yearly pass. That's over $1,000 value. All you have to do, like the tweet, post your reply, follow Awesemo_com and Awesemo Golf. The winner will be chosen at random within 24 hours. It's a complete free roll. There's no reason not to do that. You can get inside the ropes for free if you strike gold there. And you're in for a full year. So we've got that going on. Our man behind the glass, Jordan Klein's got it on the screen for you guys. But Alex, looking at this tournament, so I wanted to ask you this, and this is why I'm so excited you're on the show. For majors, do you change your process at all from a random event, or do you just say, you know what, this is another golf tournament, it's less people, but it's the same concepts?
The one thing I've noticed this week is that, like, usually once you dip below 7K on DraftKings, the quality of golfer drops off a cliff. But this week, I mean, since it's the top guys in the world that are in the field, the guys in that 6.5 to 7K range are actually really good golfers. So that does open up the lineup construction a lot this week. Besides that, I think that the players you're playing against in majors are different because the tournaments are so much bigger. It draws a lot of casual interest. Also, a lot of the kind of DFS regulars from other sports don't usually get up for like the Honda Classic, but they will for the Masters. So I think we might see a lot more people just kind of putting in some highly projected lineups as well.
Yeah, I mean, Eric, do you find that where obviously the casuals, a lot of people, we get it, they want to try out golf. This is the week to do it. Do you kind of change up what you do, or do you just say, okay, maybe tournaments, have a different influx of people?
Yeah, this is the week when I get 15 emails from my friends and family being like,
Yeah,
what am I doing on DraftKings this week? And I'm like, really? That's going to be the start of this. But that's the fact, and the reality of it is that I think you get some of these fields that are softer. There is name recognition with Vijay Singh and Fred Couples for some people, and they might just be like, screw it. We're going to fire some lineups in there. Not anything of quantity, but there are more dead lineups, I would say, for most majors. Just because people don't necessarily take into account some of the game theory elements. There is the casuals who come in and zero out their salary with guys who are all 15% or more owned. And yeah, enjoy a cash game, but you're not winning a milli, or you're probably splitting a milli 50 ways if it does end up optimal. But I think that there are little edges to be had here and there.
No doubt about it. I mean, and that's something that, we're going to get into the course right now, actually. And Eric, I want to stick with you. I mean, you certainly have had more golfing experience than me and Alex in multiple lifetimes would ever have. And when you look at Augusta, everyone always talks about, it's very undulated. There's slopes, there's quadrants, things on that. I mean, again, it's kind of sticking to the same concept. What do you make of that? Do you put an emphasis on, driving distance, which has correlated in the past? Or do you think if they get these firm and fast conditions, you're more looking for those guys that can work and get up and down and avoid those nasty lag putts?
See, what I love about Augusta, and I think what makes it the golf course that everybody loves, is that there are certainly multiple ways to play this golf course. I think it's historically known that Zach Johnson took every single par 5 and made it a 3-shot par 5 the year that he won the Masters. That's within the last 20 years. You've seen guys like Phil Mickelson, who aren't necessarily the most precise iron players, who have adept touch and can get up and down from everywhere. You've seen guys like Trevor Immelman and what's his face? You've just seen so many Charles Schwartzel. You've seen so many guys who get a hot putter going and can spike an upside. And it really just comes down to being able to make a lot of putts in that 6 to 12 foot area. I mean, you saw with Dustin Johnson last year, just pouring them in left and right. So as much as we want to talk about his driving acumen, putted the lights out of it and just dominated last year. So I think that I tend to factor a little bit more scrambling, a little bit more putting. And I think I probably will more than normal because of the conditions that we're going to probably be talking about coming up here too.
Yeah, I mean, just going off that, Alex, one of the big talking points that I've been thinking about is we saw this tournament 5 months ago, which is such a weird situation. And it was in November. I mean, when you're looking, I know course history, we could do a whole show on does course history matter, but you've got course history and then you've got this November Masters. Do you kind of look at that kind of like an outlier? DJ broke the course record at 20 under there, or do you just say that's like any other year?
Yeah, it was definitely an outlier because what I'm seeing is in 2020, the average score on this course was 71.3. If we go back to 2019, it was 72.4. So that was a whole stroke above that. If we go back to 2018, it was 74. So that was like, there's just been a lot of variance in how hard this course has been. I think it's prudent to kind of assume it's going to be somewhere in between like 2018 and 2020, where like those are pretty big gaps in between there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that it'll be a hard course, but not like crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's going to play more difficult than November. I don't think it's going to be like US Open where Phil is like breaking the rules and hitting the putts while they're still rolling style.
That was fun though. Let's be serious.
That was fun. That's another story for another time. All right. I think we're ready. Let's get into it. Let's get into the golfers chat. We got a lot of people in here. We're about to dive into the top end fade. If you can hit the like button, let's pump them up tonight for the Masters. Subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell, because we have so much content and you won't know when the shows are going live because they move around. We don't want you to miss anything. We've got you covered here. So make sure to do that. I mean, it really helps us out and we appreciate it. But diving in here, Eric, I mean, there's a bunch of names. There's 6 guys over 10K. Ownership naturally is pretty dispersed. I mean, using Alex's ownership projections, giving you guys a sneak peek, everyone looks like they're going to be 10% plus. So what do you do with that? I mean, are you just choosing best available, or do you still think that there may be some leverage we could find?
Yes and no. I think in this top section, it is really kind of being able to play the guys that you want, and I think we can kind of identify that I think Bryson and DJ, like nobody's going overlooked in this top section. I think Xander's somebody who's kind of fallen off a cliff from a popularity standpoint of late, which makes him intriguing. I think Justin Thomas, everybody looks at that win at the TPC Sawgrass and is going to boost him up from that. Bryson goes without saying. John Rahm, everybody kind of has an argument for him. DJ, defending champion. I think it's kind of just being able to mix and match the guys that you want to be playing from that range. I think everybody, for the most part, has some kind of a factor that you can plug on and say that that's my guy for this week. I'm choosing the Justin Thomas route. I just really like his consistency, makes bunches of birdies, plays tough golf courses well, has seen this golf course a number of times and has been trending up every single appearance, finishing with 4 last year. So I like going to like that direction. And we'll talk a little bit about Bryson too on some of the detriments here, but I want to hear kind of Alex's take on this top range.
As do I. Alex, floor is yours. You got 6 guys. Again, looks like JT and Bryson getting a little more love. Rory and Xander maybe not. How do you see it? I mean, I'm assuming you're going to mix and match to some extent, but do you have a feel for how you approach this top end?
Yeah, definitely. So Dustin Johnson, he obviously won the Masters last year, but in the last couple of months, he's been struggling a little bit. So I feel like his stock has kind of been on the downslope since then. And given that price point of 11.5K on DraftKings, I feel like he may be the least popular of the options here, where if you go to John Rahm's kind of game log, I mean, he's a fantastic golfer. It's really, really consistent results. Not a ton of firsts in the recent history, but a lot of top tens. So that's the kind of guy I'm interested in, because people don't have that memory of them taking down the big tournaments, but that is just so much luck involved in that. Then, I mean, Bryson and JT, they were part of the Million Maker winning lineup a few weeks ago with the Players Championship. So I feel like people are going to have really fond memories of how they played in that tournament. So I'm expecting those guys, being the cheapest and both on really good streaks, to be the most popular. So I'm kind of leaning maybe, I feel like Bryson's the best for fantasy without ownership considered, because he does have that great off the tee game, which gives him a lot of extra opportunities to hit birdies. But the ownership scared me off a little bit. I'm kind of intrigued by Rahm and DJ, because you get a little bit lower ownership, and I feel like all these guys at the top end are very comparable as in skill level.
Yeah, I mean, Bryson, I think he's clearly the most polarizing at this point. Most of the things he's been doing, everyone says he's doing it for Augusta. He's coming off a win at API, then he was 3rd at the Players. It's just someone that I think has been on people's minds, and it's going to continue. Of course, so I'll say this, Chad. I watched Rory's presser in full. Yes, he's clearly working through some things. There's no doubt. I think that the struggles are wildly overblown. I'll be honest. For most guys, they would run to the window to take this. Alex just alluded to this with Rahm. People really separate winning and not winning as if it's a black and white situation. And some of these guys are racking up top 10 finishes at an amazing rate, but they're not in the winner's circle as often as they should be. And I think that is blinding some of it. But Eric, I mean, what do you do? We've kind of talked about the first 4. You've got Xander and you've got Rory. I mean, do you find it unnecessary? Do you think they're worthwhile targets? I mean, they're the last 2 in this upper range.
I love going to Rory McIlroy here. We've seen him be in contention multiple times. I love the PGA syllabus that we put together, being able to look, if you go and see, I believe it's free this week, being able to look at all of the GPP exposures that we have for everybody. I saw that we were kind of the only 2 guys really riding the Rory train, and that scared me a little bit, but at least I know that misery loves company. He's talked a lot about how mentally it's been taxing for him to watch Bryson DeChambeau. He started targeting distance, which is weird considering he's been in the top 5 of driving distance how many years in a row on the PGA Tour. He's just an absolute beast with a driver. I really think for him, it just comes down to putting. It seems like at Augusta, there are times when the putting spikes and it's really noticeable. He's had some nice low rounds there. He had the collapse on the back nine that's very historic as well. So he's been in contention. He's gotten there. We know the kind of ceiling that he has and the kind of capabilities that exist for Rory McIlroy. He's the complete golfer in so many different ways when it comes down to everything but putting. And so I'm going to just hope that we get a little bit of that comeback with the driver here of late. That it skews back towards. I mean, we have how many years in a row of him being the best driver on the planet. So I'm happy to go back there and kind of take the ownership discount.
Yeah, and then the last guy, Alex, before we move on, I have to ask you about Xander, who is I cannot get him right. I try, I fail. The ownership usually masses with him, but lately he has struggled a little bit. Does the depression in ownership make it worthwhile to you as a buy low spot, or do you think that maybe he was just overinflated and you're still paying a premium?
I think he has a really great body of work over the past year, where in this field he's fourth in my ranking for the number of strokes above the average golfer. So it's been a little bit weaker in this past few, where he got cut at the Players and then 39th at the Workday, but before that, pretty strong results. So he might be a buy low for me, where I feel like Justin Thomas and Bryson are going to get a lot of the ownership here, and Xander may be a little bit under-owned.
Speaking of tools, and Jordan Klein has got our pro plays, which are free today, and that's got all of it. But Alex, I want to go right back to you because I just got a preview of this in the last couple of days. I want to ask you, you have put together a couple new golf tools that the public definitely has not seen, and they're in beta right now, but they are free. They're going to go behind the paywall. Can you just briefly talk about them, and do you think they're applicable today, and just in general, what they are?
Definitely. So the first one I came up with was we've talked a lot about how the official world golf rankings, although, that's great that they have them, they just aren't very indicative of who the best golfers are. So I wanted to do something for the site that does a better job of ranking the best golfers over the past year. So instead of going for wins, which I feel like are definitely worth celebrating, I was just looking at the overall number of strokes gained. So there were some names that you might not expect towards the top of the list. One that people were trolling me about was Russell Henley, who I have above guys like Morikawa. Not in the field this week, but this isn't a biased tool. It's just like, it's not because I like Henley. It's just like what he's done. So it kind of gives you this unbiased look at how everyone's performed over the last year. Go ahead. No. When I think about the world golf rankings, I always think of Alex Noren, who was so inflated, and could be an opportunity to maybe identify some guys who are undervalued or possibly overvalued. Definitely. Yeah. I think, I don't think anyone uses the golf rankings for fantasy because they're so bad, but some guys that are really low ranked in the golf rankings that are popping in my model, Jason Day at 52nd. He's the 22nd best golfer according to my metrics. Of course, everyone remembers him slumping, but during the COVID period, he actually kind of got his act together. So that was encouraging. And then some guys that might be, one guy that I'm not as bullish on is Rory because he just has had an off year. Sure. I know he's got a ton of talent, but the results haven't been there. And when it's been a whole year, I'm a little bit worried about that. I know like part of it was because he had that baby, maybe like not sleeping well and stuff. It's hard to really separate the noise, but I might wait and see with him.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Rom can do with that. Let's go kind of to this next range, to the leverage value, because with a field this good and this deep, you certainly have options to start in the nines, Eric. I mean, you've got guys like Spieth, who projected to possibly be the highest owned player in the entire field. But I want to ask you specifically, I mean, feel free to incorporate Spieth. Patrick Cantlay is the first guy leading this range off. He's 9,800. He's super consistent. He had a real chance to win He had the lead pretty late on Sunday. I'm not saying he gave it away by any stretch because he didn't, but he's been in this tournament before a couple years ago. How do you view him, and how do you view this 9K range?
Yeah, I love Cantley. And also, speaking of Jordan Spieth, 77th ranked golfer in the world is going to be the most popular golfer in this entire field. So letting that be known, that speaks right to your point. Just it's going to be awesome to have those rankings updated every week. But I'm definitely kind of looking towards the Cantley side of it. You talk about a 5-tool golfer, like this is the guy. Great off the tee, can get super hot with the putting, consistent with the ball striking all around, does just everything well. He's just kind of who you want to be banking on when conditions get tough. He can play in multiple, he can go low, just kind of does a little bit of everything well. And if I'm going to lose backing my guy. And Cantley, I've always believed it's kind of like him and Rahm kind of being the two guys that I see ascending to the top in the world very, very soon. And I like getting an under 10K price tag on him, getting a little bit of leverage off Spieth at more than half the ownership, or at less than half the ownership. Very excited about going to Cantley this week.
Hey, he's got no glaring weakness. He just, every time he shows up, he seems to be in it. He hasn't been as sharp lately, but I don't worry about that. But our friend, Jason Roslin in chat, Alex, and this is the question. I think everyone is asking this coming off the win. What do you do with Jordan Spieth, who is going to be insanely popular, but whose price did not get a win at Valero factored in because these prices locked early?
Yeah, I think that's what everyone is thinking, that he's undervalued because it didn't incorporate that new data point where he really excelled. But I feel like a lot of people look at the Vegas odds as kind of a metric to go off of in fantasy, and that works in most sports, but it doesn't really work in golf because there's a lot of factors that are playing into this, where like they're not taking action on both sides of the line. So it's just like the price you get is whatever people are willing to take. And right now, Spieth at 12-1 is getting the second most bets. So people are just betting this line to a ridiculous point where I feel very strongly. I think Spieth is a great golfer, but I don't think he's nearly as good as Justin Thomas, Bryson, Rahm, or DJ. So I just am totally disregarding this 12-1 figure. I think that the real odds should be a lot lower than that.
Yes, that is a point that can't be stressed. And if I'll put it to you like this, if they put a line on Tiger, who clearly can't even play, he would probably be in the top 5 of bets of people who would just bet him blindly, because the names, it's not, there's no, you don't bet Spieth will not win the Masters, and they can short these odds. It's out of whack. I think Spieth is a fine play, but I certainly am looking to pivots in that range. Cantley is one that sticks out. Eric, I want to ask you about a little more aggressive pivots. You've got Patrick Reed and Colin Morikawa, who are right there. They're looking at maybe like a third of the ownership of a guy like Spieth. Do you think that's too aggressive, or is that something you are willing to do?
So it also becomes the question of like, how do you model course history at Augusta, and how much do you weight somebody who has 2 green jackets compared to somebody who has 0? How do you weight, like we've seen a ridiculous amount of course history to like an extreme extent with Reed, with Bubba Watson, with some of these other guys. And then Reed has constantly kind of been at the top of leaderboards, put up a win on a tough golf course earlier this year at Torrey Pines. So, I mean, he's kind of going a little bit underrepresented, I think, across the industry right now. Also, if you want to talk about somebody who can get hot with a putter and just spike a winning upside, or, you know, for an outright, Patrick Reed's kind of the guy to be looking at, I think, in that range. I really don't mind going there at all. I like going down a little bit further, and I'm curious to hear what you and Alex think about this guy, because he's had 2 bad weeks. But if you're looking at like earlier this season, Tony Finau was absolutely on fire, and now nobody wants to touch him. I find that very confusing because this golf course sets up just about perfectly for him. It just bombs it off the tee. Has been putting a lot better of late. We saw him shoot a crazy final round that got him in that playoff where he lost to Max Homa at Riviera earlier this year. I really like kind of going to Finau. I've been struggling what to do on this bottom end of the 9K range, because I know that it's not going to be Spieth, but I'm not sure who I really want it to be yet.
Yeah, Alex, that's a really interesting point that Eric just brought up with Finau specifically. This is a guy that if you would have said in mid-January, early February, who's going to be the most popular player at the Masters, it easily could have been Tony Finau. Now, Players is a fluky tournament. He misses the cut. At Valero, he lost 4.2 strokes off the tee, which is his worst performance ever driving the ball. Is that enough of a red flag to deter you, or do you say, you know what, everyone's kind of running and fleeing, this is the perfect time to hang on to a pretty unpopular Tony Finau?
I think Finau is a good buy low. He was one of the more popular plays last week, and I went to him over Spieth. It didn't work out very well, but I do recall that he missed on the cut line. He's won over the cut line. And Ben, I know that's your favorite strategy, is to get those guys that their performance looks deceptively bad compared to what it actually was. That was a pretty weak field, so I was pretty disappointed, but I don't think that's a huge data point to really drive us someone else. So are you going to Finau?
So the thing I love is that I don't have to make a huge decision. I think I can get over on him without, crushing my portfolio because of that. And I really do believe in that strategy. Most people, they want to see what happened and it says cut and they think, all right, he got cut, but there's context within that. Some guys, they miss a couple putts coming in and they get cut on the number. Other guys don't have it and they shoot 15 over. That's two totally different things for me. So I'm not overly concerned. The last guy for both of you, before we get to the make the cut segment, what are you doing with Webb, Eric? Different type of player, but you know what? Webb just does his thing. He hasn't been nearly as sharp either. He's a different type of golfer. Do you think he can get it done around Augusta?
Yeah, so he's my fourth highest owned player that I have right now in the field going into this week. You talk about somebody who can scramble. Like they can just make a number on tough, firm greens. He won at a U.S. Open at Olympic that just is burnt into my brain. And he did that with a short putter. And he's found a putting method that just works. He's one of the best putters on the planet. And I find that just to be on a tough golf course with these greens are going to play as firm and as fast as they sound like they're going to. I want Webb on my side this week.
Anyone else, Alex? And feel free to talk about Webb. Anything else in the 9K range before we kind of get to the mid range?
I like Webb as well. I think he's a guy that always looks a little worse in the Vegas odds than he is because he doesn't have that off the tee game. He does a lot in the other facets. He's not bad at off the tee, but only about 0.2 strokes gained in there. So I think people generally undervalue him, and his consistency is really good. So with that second guy in, I'm not necessarily looking for a guy that has a great chance of being number one. I just want them in the top 5. So I think Webb's odds are pretty good there. I do think that the 8K range below is really strong too. So I got some good guys there.
Just looking at oddshopper.awesemo.com, if you want to find those odds and you can shop them, Webb is plus 700 to come in the top 5. And that is pretty good value. He's next to guys like Cam Smith, Hovland, Paul Casey. To me, Webb is much more likely than those guys to come in the top 5, even though I do like Paul Casey. All right, let's get to some of these guys in the 8K range. Alex just mentioned them, and we'll start there. There's a lot of names. We're going to make the cut here. So just going to throw out a couple names, and you guys feel free to say whatever. Don't slander my guys and throw shade at the guys I'm not playing. All right, first couple up. We're going to go to the mid to upper 8K range. Eric, I'll start with you. We got Daniel Berger, Victor Hovland, and Sungjae Im. Do you have a priority list? Do you think anyone might be only playing 2 rounds there?
I really like all three. Right at that top end, I think outside of Lee Westwood and Tyrrell Hatton just kind of had some problems in majors in general. Not somebody that seems to gear up for it, which is strange because Bay Hill isn't the easiest golf course, and he's made that look like a walk in the park a couple of years. But I do really like the Hovland side of it, ball striking. Just if you're going to ride somebody who needs to hit 14, 15 greens in order to be successful here, he can get it done for you. I love his ball flight too for it. Just a consistent driver of the ball, hits that nice cut off at the tee. You look at like the pedigree of Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, some of these guys that hit those bigger, just shot shaping guys, both with irons and having that little baby cut. I think it really is kind of an advantage to have that ball flight on this golf course. Sungjae Im, we've seen him play well here very, very recently. And then Daniel Berger is somebody that I think everybody is kind of on this week. But if you want somebody who's going to go out and post a number on tough greens, he's kind of the guy to be riding into like on this tournament in general.
Same question to you, Alex. We've got Berger, we've got Hovland, we've got Im, all in that mid to upper 8K range. Are these the guys you were alluding to just before that you think make strong plays?
I think the one guy of that group I'm looking at the most is Hovland. I do feel like he's significantly got better results than Haddon and Im, where I have him at -2 strokes per round over the last year, where Haddon's at -1.7 and Im is at -1.4. Westwood, I'm not even considering because although he had a nice performance a few weeks ago, I mean, he's a little bit older, and his last performance at the Honda Classic kind of took away all the momentum there. So the one guy that's jumping out to me, as Eric said, everyone's on Berger. I kind of am feeling it too. And he's just been insane in post-COVID golf, where he's actually second in my power rankings, which is the other tool that we have that's new on the site, which is a weighted ranking based on the most recent tournaments being more heavily weighted according to a formula I developed for projections. So I do feel like Berger is really underpriced because his last year he's been close to some of the guys at the top range.
It's been really so. Berger, he returned off a pretty serious injury. I believe it was a wrist, and since then, and he got healthy, he's been absolutely fantastic. And diving into the numbers, someone like Hovland, he gains off the last time he lost strokes off the tee was August of 2020. The guy is automatic. Berger, who you don't think like that, is gaining a ton off the tee. He does it a little differently, but he's gained in every event in 2021 off the tee. He's been great tee to green. He's a very good putter. I think what'll come down for me with Hovland in particular is the around the green game. He's negative there in 5 of his last 6 events. That's the one area he has improved, but I think if he gets into trouble, it's going to be because the greens really eat him up. Tee to green, he's world class. I think we all know that. Lee Westwood, that's a no for me. Sergio's hole-in-one took his soul. Eric, you have any interest in Lee Westwood?
No, I don't. I wish I did, because the narrative around him is probably the fact that he's the best player without a major. And it's been that way, I think, for about 25 years for the poor guy. I wish he could have gotten one. I wish he could have gotten like an Open Championship instead of Shane Lowry or something. But such is life. Golf is very, very hard, and winning at golf is even harder.
Yeah, there's been some you look at the Open Championship winners, this is a tangent, but like there's been some people that you didn't know existed that have them, and then poor Lee Westwood does not. All right, second
Ben
batch
Curtis,
of guys.
Good God.
I was thinking of Ben Curtis in my mind. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah, I had a feeling it was that.
Yeah, he's not walking through that door. All right. Hideki, Cam Smith, and Matthew Fitzpatrick. Eric, we'll stay with you here. Lower 8K range. What do you do? Is this an area you find yourself funneled to? You can feel free to incorporate Fleetwood, who is also there. But what are you doing with this lower 8s?
Do I have to incorporate Fleetwood? I don't.
I may let it slide,
Fleetwood. But okay. Well, I'm gonna pass on it then. Hideki. I am a perennial Hideki stan. Scotty Scheffler as well. One of the guys that's really popping in Alex's top golfers tool as well. You're getting some nice leverage going Scotty Scheffler's direction. Again, a lot of people do become enamored with going out and winning, but Scotty Scheffler is very, very good. He's good at every component of golf, was phenomenal. Like, it is so hard to dominate the web.com tour in the way that he did. Everybody in Texas, Jordan Spieth, talking about him being the best golfer that he knows. There's a lot of like large talk for Scotty Scheffler, and we're starting to see flashes of it. It's starting to come through a little bit here and there. It happens on easy golf courses. He's played out well out in like La Quinta, put some rounds together out there that are just going super low. He plays tough golf course as well. I really like going to Scotty Scheffler kind of in that range. Otherwise, like, Hideki, I can't stop playing a guy who hits the ball like he does. Please putt well one time.
Yeah, that's not going to – as someone who's played Hideki pretty much every week since he hit it into the creek to lose that PGA many, many years ago now, 4 years, it's been a struggle. But, Alex, I mean, this is, again, we're still in the 8K range. If you build balance, this could be your third or fourth man in. How do you prioritize? You've got young guns like Scheffler. You've got, 2 Brits with Fitzy and Fleetwood. A lot of different types of players here. How do you sort through it?
So I think this is a range where there's certain guys that I'm really low on compared to the field. I think Hideki is one of the guys I like. The reason why his Vegas odds are pretty weak at 50-1 is mostly because once I start digging into the volatility of golfers, I noticed like him and Webb Simpson are two of the least volatile of the whole field. So that does hurt the upside a little bit, but we're looking for consistency in this range, as you're saying, because some of these guys might be the third guy in. So I'm kind of feeling Cameron Smith and Fitzpatrick, but then Fleetwood, Garcia, Bubba Watson, and Paul Casey. I feel like, especially Paul Casey, his odds are really juiced this week. I feel like over the last year, he hasn't been nearly that good. And I feel like he's going super overowned. So that's someone I might avoid. Where Watson, Garcia, and Fleetwood, I just am not overly impressed with those guys either with their performance over the past year. So that's definitely a range where you can make some mistakes.
So just to stick with you for a second, because that is interesting, because there's a lot of names here in the opportunity cost, and we'll get to the rest of the high sevens. Does that mean, I know obviously you'll probably have more than a couple lineups out there, but do you find yourself maybe building a little more stars and scrubs because of that, where you're trying to get a couple guys up top, and then as we get lower that you'll find enough names and this is kind of a dead range, or do you still think there's enough, it's just not maybe those guys?
There's enough. It's just that one particular group I'm a little low on, but I do see starting with Jason Day and going down, like there's about 6 really solid golfers for the price. So I don't see a need to go stars and scrubs, but there are some really cheap guys that I think are really good plays this week.
We're going to get there. Before we do, though, I do want to say, if you haven't signed up for Awesemo Plus and you're looking to get in for the Masters and for a lot more, the time is right now. We have a promo code Dustin. And by doing that, you're going to get 2 months of Awesemo Plus golf for the price of 1 month. And that's going to take you through multiple majors and all the tournaments in between. The tools that Alex has been talking about tonight, they're going to go behind the paywall. You've got Slack, you've got everything else, projections, ownership, and it's for the price of 1 month for 2 months. Great deal. Promo code Dustin. Go check that out. All right, working down, Eric, these are some of the names I have a feeling that maybe Alex will be a little higher on. He mentioned Casey, he's not, but you've got Adam Scott, you've got Jason Day. Louis is there, assuming that his neck, he wakes up on the right side of the mattress and he wants to play. The mid sevens, is this a range you find yourself very interested in?
Yeah, again, I like this range. I like Jason Day quite a bit. I like Louis a ton. And Joaquin Niemann, who I think we're both very bullish on from his long-term perspective. I think we talk a lot about getting early to the game. Like you want to be early into the party of like any of the golfers that you're really, really high on. Obviously was the number one amateur in the world, shown pedigree at every single level so far, started putting it together, had the win at the Greenbrier, and it's really kind of like catapulted him into being somebody that's kind of been a mainstay of my lineups. Hasn't worked out like phenomenally well. Hasn't really broken the top 25 in the last 4, but I continue to be there. I believe in the pedigree, and you saw Sony Open Century back-to-back seconds, a lot of wind. I hope it gets windy because then I'm looking at having the nuts in playing him. But I really like going to Joaquin Niemann from a long-term perspective. And so I'm going to take some shots there for sure. And then Louis Oosthuizen, I will never be able to quit ever. Best golf swing on tour, period.
Sweet swinging Louis. It's so pure. It's no doubt about it, Alex. So looking at those guys, because this is an interesting range in the sense of the spectrum. You've got guys like Jason Day and Adam Scott who have been there. They've done that. Scott has a green jacket. Day was runner-up in his first, Augusta appearance. He's got so much experience. Then you've got a guy like Joaquin Niemann right there. He competed as an amateur here and he missed the cut a couple years ago. He's obviously developed a much stronger game. Do you find yourself willing to go to a guy with basically no course history? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to err on the side of experience, guys who have been there dozens of times and seen it all?
Yeah, I think the problem is the course history is baked into these prices. So I do notice Adam Scott is significantly priced up compared to his results over the past year. The Vegas odds are pretty good on him for the price, and I agree with those odds that he's been having a really good year. I feel like he could be the next Jordan Spieth, where kind of a guy that was elite that dropped off a little bit and maybe is coming back to form. So if you want to get a guy with a feel-good story like Jordan Spieth, but you don't want to pick Spieth, maybe they could be the guy.
That would be fantastic.
Super high ball flight, great putter of the golf ball, great course history. If he hadn't burned everybody in November with that 78 in the second round, this would be a different conversation on day.
So that was his first miscut at Augusta at all. That was also the pinnacle of where it looked like Jason Day just might be permanently broken. His last time out at the Players, 11.2 strokes gained tee to green. He lost 7.5 strokes putting. That is an outlier of all outliers. Day is long-term one of the best putters in the world. Short-term, he's still above average. So he is actually striking it a lot better than it seems. We always know that the back could be an issue, but all indications are that he's healthy. Last batch here before we move to the cheapies, Alex. Speaking of bad backs, what do you do? I want a singular guy here. What do you do with Justin Rose, who wasn't even playing good to begin with? You mentioned before the show, you would probably adjust his price by a mere $7,000 or so. What do you do with him, or is he just playing so bad you don't care if he's healthy?
And I ran a crunch earlier, and I was getting a bunch of Justin Rose, and I was like, this can't be right. Like, what's going on? And sure enough, there was an error because, man, this guy,
poor guy.
I've lost so much money picking him. It's like made me almost like rewrite my whole model, because if you go back over the last few years, he's got one of the best track records of anyone in this field. Maybe he's like number 6 or something. But over the last year, he's been really, really in rough shape. So I do feel like, especially given a withdrawal risk, I think he withdrew from his last start. That's a no for me.
Yeah, it's like you had to Henrik Stenson proof your model. Now maybe you got to take a Justin Rose iteration. All right, Eric, a couple more guys before we move to the sixes. We've got some names here. You've got Wolf, you've got Molinari, Max Homa, who is a Quail Hollow winner, and I do think that's kind of relevant. Is this a range in the low sevens that you find yourself somewhat interested in?
No.
Okay.
So now we've reached the spot where I just don't really know where I would want to go. If you don't want to play Justin Rose, I wouldn't play Matthew Wolf this week if he was free. I just don't really know what to think about what he's been doing of late. Just really kind of fighting a lot of stuff. George Gankis, his Instagram golf coach. It's not a great marketing look when you start getting a little wayward the way that he has. I just don't really like anything that I've seen of him. That 83 was kind of the pinnacle for him too. The withdraw there at concession, we haven't seen him since. I don't really know. I feel like 5% is like paying part of my rake this week on Matthew Wolf. Watch, he goes out, just wins outright. That would be ridiculous. But as much as I like Matthew Wolf, as he seems like a decent enough dude, amazing young college player, it's kind of on the opposite side where you can kind of see him fighting some stuff. And I just don't even want to go near that. I think you got to have your game in some kind of shape going into this golf tournament. It's just not the kind of golf course you want to be coming in with no form. Shane Lowry, I've been on here of late, time from here and there. Sure. Victor Perez, I think, is probably the only guy that I'm going to be going to at all there. And it's purely just recent form. I don't know what else to think about it, but that's kind of it for me. And then the upper 6 is where I start to get interested again. But yeah, this lower 7s is pretty gross.
Yeah, I'm not really there on much either. The last guy, Alex, I wanted to ask you on him. This is one of the few guys who, has a ton of talent, but truly no experience. What do you do with Will Z, who has come on and he's looked very impressive, but there's not a ton to go off of, certainly in these type of circumstances?
Yeah, I'm thinking Will Z is a good buy this week. I think I was a little iffy on him at first when he came in with he had some of the highest odds on the first slate he was on, the first PGA start. And since then, he's really delivered. I I have him at about minus 1.8 strokes over his 50 rounds, which is significantly higher than most of the golfers in this range. So I am willing to. I think Will Z is one of the better guys to take a flyer on in this range.
Loads of talent. It's going to be an interesting wrinkle to see, you know, how and he's so far, listen, at US Opens, he's been fantastic. It's just Augusta is Augusta. So we're going to find out, but I see it as a very reasonable price tag. All right, let's go to the deep dive. Let's go to the sixes. Alex, I want to stick with you because looking at your ownership projections, there is one guy in the 6K range that stands out who is going to be massively popular. I think we all knew it the minute he cruised at Valero. He was great November here. It's Corey Connors, the Canadian at 6,900. What do you do with a clearly lightning rod for ownership here? Or do you just say, you know what, I'll differentiate with my other five guys on these teams. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm going to take the most obvious play in the sixes.
Yeah, I think they really missed on Corey Connors' price. So he is a great play at 6,900. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where usually for 6,900, you're getting a guy that like doesn't even have a PGA card. But now you're getting Corey Connors, who had 2 top 10s in his last 3 starts, including the Players. So I think he's a really solid play. The only reason I feel like I might be a little under the field, I'm not sure. I might have him a lot, but I do feel like Kokrak and Brian Harman are comparably good at the same price point, and they're not garnering nearly as much ownership. So I'm looking at those guys as pretty good pivots off of Connors if you're looking to get different a little bit.
Yeah, I'm coming in under. This is one of my more aggressive stands. And this is me again leaning on Corey Connors has one glaring weakness. It's his around the green game. He's lost strokes around the green in 5 of 6 events. He's an incredible iron player, but if you can't hold these greens, he's going to have some problems. If he can, his tee to green game is immaculate. And Eric, I mean, Alex just mentioned 2 pivots. You said Kokrak earlier. Do you go to him, who certainly can shave down some of these holes with his abilities off the tee? You've got Harman, who's a lefty, and at Augusta, we've certainly seen left-handed players succeed. Are those guys on your radar, or is this another dead range?
I like Brian Harman. I would put him into that group out of everybody in that upper sixes. I really do like Corey Connors, though. If you just look at the track record of late, his recent form, 10th last year at the Masters, it's really hard for me not to like, he's kind of got every single thing working in his direction. Now, that being said, yeah, I am concerned where, you know, you're going to miss some greens, you're going to put him in some tight spots, but he just makes so many birdies that I'm not too worried about it. I think that at the upper sixes, it's just kind of a misprice. And rather than taking, somebody up on the upper end and going massively overweight on somebody like Spieth, who I think is, you know, the same way Alex talked about it, I think his odds are just kind of people like lending people to playing him in bulk this week. I think it's more appropriate at the bottom end in these upper sixes to kind of like go overweight on Connors, who just kind of stands out amongst everybody in his range, whereas Spieth doesn't stand out to me amongst everybody in his range. So I like 6,900 going the Corey Connors route. And then out of anybody else that I'd be looking at, Brian Harman from the Southern Georgia area, I like going his direction as well.
Going to the Bulldogs. Yeah, I mean, there are
Georgia
names
Bulldog.
down here. You're going to find some spotty form. You're going to find some guys that maybe aren't playing as consistent golf. Alex, but there's a couple of names I want to run by you because this is one place, and we're not going to we'll get to them right at the end, the super veterans, but we've seen some older guys compete here, experience. I do a lot of shows during the week, and at Chad, things change. I made horrible fun of Phil Mickelson as I do, and the more I looked, it's not that crazy. Do you have any interest in Phil this week, Alex, or is that too crazy as I just said? Maybe it is.
Phil is, he's been having a rough season.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at this range, one guy that might be equally volatile that doesn't have that name recognition is Cameron Champ. He's another guy that just like smokes it off the tee. But I feel like Champ has a little bit more upside because of that, even though they're both very inconsistent players. So honestly, I probably won't get to either one, but if I had to go with one of those 2 guys, I'd go with Champ.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Champ finally made a cut. He's when I say a lock to gain off, even if he gets cut, he will gain off the tee. There's no doubt about it. He has an immaculate. And one of the things that I truly believe in when you go to the lower ranges in PGA, I would rather have my guy do one thing world class and be weak in the other areas than just be pretty below average in all four, because Champ can just go crazy with the driver and he can possibly hold it together. Whereas some of these other guys, I don't really see it. But Eric, is there anyone else as we really work down here? We've got a couple minutes left. How low are you willing to go? I don't think Sandy Lyle is the answer, but is there anyone like in the lower half of the sixes that you see as playable?
I think it probably ends at Zach Johnson, 6,300. Between course history, between playing a tough golf course with fast greens, one of the world-class putters for long-term, he's been just unbelievable with that club his entire career with that Seymour putter. It's pretty ridiculous how good he's been on this golf course as well. Kevin Na in 6,500. I'm going to have some smatterings of, can spike the putting upside as well. Gets hot and can just start walking them in here and there. I think that's always kind of an intriguing thing in the 6K range to try to target. I'm curious what you guys are going to do with Matt Wallace at 6,400. I still don't have any interest in going that direction. Lonto Griffin as well, getting quite a bit of ownership. I'm pretty light on both, and I don't know what you guys are deciding to do with them.
Yeah, Alex, I'll pass it to you. Matt Wallace is someone at Valero. Again, the pricing probably would have bumped him up a little. He was really good, couldn't ultimately catch Spieth or Hoffman, but 6,400. He's got some experience, made a cut here, missed a cut. What do you do there? Is he an obvious pay down option, or do you prefer Ryan Palmer or Lanto? What do you do in that like mid sixes?
I think one thing I'm noticing is that the quality of golfer doesn't correlate that well with the price this week. So I do see Matt Wallace as being a little bit underpriced, and the Vegas odds are quite good on him for the price as well. So I see no reason not to go to Matt Wallace. The other guys that I'm really considering in this range are Lanto Griffin, like you guys are saying, Matt Jones and ZJ. Eric, you mentioned ZJ. I think he's solid, just really, really cheap and a good golfer. And then if we want to go even deeper, I feel like Mac Hughes is a guy that for some reason he never gets ownership, but I feel like he's not bad. And then Brendan Todd also, I feel like is underpriced this week.
Yeah, those are some dangerous names. Shout out to Robert Streb, who, when I saw that, I was just like, that can't be right. And then I forgot that he randomly won. Mm-hmm. I listen, I don't think it's necessary, kind of just to, sum it up. I'm not going so aggressive at the top that I need someone this low. Like I could land in the higher sixes if I have to, even if I double up top. Like I've been exploring Rory and Bryson builds and things like that. You don't need like Stewart Sink to accomplish that. So last question, is there any, veteran player or amateur whatsoever that you could find yourself playing? Your floor is open to either of you guys.
I'll let Alex go.
Oh gosh. I was looking at Angel Cabrera, but apparently he's in prison. But not for real. I do feel like you could, if you want to pay 6K, Robert Streb is a realistic option, I guess, because he is someone that competes regularly on the tour and is at least an average golfer. Where
Sandy Lyle.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, like Bernhard Langer, is always a classic Masters only play. He's not horrible. And then, honestly, I don't know as much about some of these golfers as you guys do, I'm sure. Yeah. But Stewart Sink, he does look like a viable play, at least.
Yeah, so I've been getting on to Stewart Sink a little bit, just in some superstars and scrubs builds. At least we have a victory at the Safeway up in Northern California of recent. Played well in Bermuda. There's really no correlation between any of those, but 19th at Honda at a tough golf course. I don't know. I think out of anybody down there, he's still young enough amongst, the Sandy Lyle, Ian Woosnam, Jose Maria Lothabo crew, where I think that he could still kind of compete there. I know Couples will always get name recognition at the Masters and be 1%. Put that into the rake bucket, the grouping of guys that are just paying the rake this week. VJ, definitely not. Mike Weir has had better form on the senior tour of late. If you want to take a dart on him randomly too, wouldn't completely hate it, but yeah, you're pretty thin down there below 6,200.
Yeah,
to put it lightly, thin.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think it's unnecessary. There's some of these guys will make the cut, but you're looking at, a 40th, a 50th, and that's just not going to be enough when you're talking about it. So unless you really think one of them does, Bernard Langer, unless there is a chance DraftKings will change, and if you shoot your age, you get a huge bonus because he's in his 60s, and he one of these days might actually shoot his age on the course, which is something. But until then, we're not going there. All right, couple minutes left here. Oh, go ahead.
It's a damn shame that Kevin Stadler isn't in the field this week because he had a pretty good showing last week.
I know, our man, and Chad is not here. Kevin Stadler.
I've been playing him in all my NBA lineups. That's kind of what I've been doing, just locking him in every single day. It's great.
It's unbelievable. He broke the streak. Kevin Stadler is doing some things. So shout out to him. Even when he's not in the field, this guy makes the show. So then I'm just going to say, pour one out for Ricky Fowler, not here. I'm wearing orange for him. Not really. That's just a coincidence, but hopefully he'll be back soon. All right. Looking at oddshopper.awesemo.com, there is so much content there. Me and Josh Engelman have our best bet contenders video posted. You should go check that out. Jason Roslin did a ton of content as well on the betting side. I know for me, I'm just going to throw this out quickly. I like Jason Day in a lot of variations, but his top 5 is plus 800. To me, you're getting some really good value there. That's a great price, and I think he is live to compete. Is there anything on the betting side? Alex, I know you're in Illinois. You get some of that. Anything that struck your interest there?
So I did bet one matchup really caught my eye, and I just could not understand the odds on this one. It had Justin Thomas and John Rahm. Justin Thomas was plus 105 on DraftKings versus John Rahm. And I'm looking at this, it's like every metric I'm looking at says Justin Thomas is probably a better play this week. So I ended up betting that one pretty hard. But now I see the odds are a little evened out where Justin Thomas is minus 106. So it's you got to get them while they're hot.
Yeah, closing line value. That's something we talk about. You're getting that. Rom's got the baby swag. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Eric, what about you? Anything there, or are you sticking more? And
this is the best week of the entire year. Let me just tell you, we got a couple here coming down the pipeline. Morikawa plus 3,300. I like that number. Oost plus 9,000. Love that too. First round leader. We have that up on Odd Shopper as well. Sebastian Munoz plus 9,000. Get on some Sebastian Munoz. He's been a first round leader twice within the last year. If you look at that massive, that little exhibition that they do out at Sherwood, he went completely scuba diving that first round. He goes low in first rounds, kind of gets out of the gate hot at times. Sebastian Munoz plus 9,000. Love that. And then Will Zalatoris and Abraham Answer, both T10s. I like those numbers at plus 500 and plus 575.
Ooh, all right. Well, you and just for people wondering, Sebastian Munoz goes off 8:36 a.m. So he does get the right tee time. Generally, you want to be in the morning when you're targeting first round leaders. The conditions are just generally better. The greens are pristine. All right. It's the best time of the show. We've gone through everyone. Chat, you guys have been fantastic. We got a lot of new people. Certainly, if you have more questions, you can get in Slack. You can hit us up. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handles are right there. We'd love to help you guys out, and we hope you're enjoying the show. But it's hot take time. I'm on the show all the time. Eric, do you want to go first? Alex is the guest, so he certainly gets to defer and see
Absolutely.
how.
We'll let him call the toss.
Okay. How do you want to structure it, Alex? You pick this order.
All right, Eric, why don't you hit us up first? I'll go second, and Ben, you can save the best for last.
Beautiful. I like that. I get to wait.
All right. This one's iffy, and I'm already feeling it. But plus 620, Bryson DeChambeau to miss the cut.
Oh, okay.
So Bryson DeChambeau has one glaring number. I feel like that's a hot take, considering he's garnering crazy ownership. He's one of the favorites in this situation. There is an underrated aspect to playing at Augusta National, and that is you are not allowed to use greens books there anymore. So greens books are basically a component that professional golfers use to be able to look at slope. They're able to look at a direct slope on a green and tell exactly what angle it's at. And you have a book that shows you wherever the pin location is going to be. It's a massive, thick book that they use on tour. It has every single component of the green measured by slope. They go out and use a slope reader and be able to do all the things that they need to. They banned them at Augusta National in 2018. So Bryson DeChambeau last year just completely, was the odds-on favorite for last year's Masters too. Just struggled. Just lost. If you bet Bernard Longer in that final round outright, you were looking at a situation where you were making a lot of money in that head-to-head. But I like fading Bryson at the Masters for that reason specifically. So I'm going to just try to go for the big one, plus 620, Bryson missing the cut.
I haven't pulled this out on a show in a very long time, but it calls for it. That is the official origin of this. That is Dante's Peak level hot, where the grandma pushes the boat in the acid lake. That is as hot as it gets on this show.
Good
and
movie.
That is what we're looking for. Good luck following that, sir. I'm glad I'm going third. I'm going to have to reevaluate here.
All right. Since hot takes are the name of the game, I'm going to say that Daniel Berger will be in the winning lineup this week. And I think he's under-owned at 18.4% on DraftKings in our projections, which is the hot take part because he's fifth in our projected ownership. So I just feel like over the past year, he's been up there with guys like DJ Ram, DeChambeau, and JT. And over recent form, especially, he's actually been the second in that group, aside from second to Justin Thomas. So I do feel like when you get one of the best golfers in the field at 8,500, that is a no-brainer.
I like that. That's a good one. Daniel Berger is a very interesting name this week, and getting him right, I think, is going to go a long way. So my hot take, this is a guy, again, this is ownership based. This is very aggressive. So I don't want people jamming this guy in. I'm going to have a fraction of him. And it's not a great course for him, but if you're looking in the sixes, if you're looking for like a top five guy, I got 28-1 on Kevin Kisner, who is not on anybody's mind, but he's another guy. He's from the area, and it's not a great course. He's been vocal that these courses that are very long are not for him. And he had absolutely no chance in November because it was not the conditions that he liked, and he missed the cut here. But if you look at his Masters history, he's found a way through. In his first four appearances here, it's going to be firm and fast. That will help him. The ball will roll out. He's an immaculate putter. Do I think that it's the perfect course for him? Well, I know it's not, but this is someone that at times he is an aggressive player. He certainly has his pedigree that he can hang in against the best fields in the world. People forget he easily could have a major. He was runner-up at the Open. He was in the PGA that Justin Thomas won. This is a good player. So I think that Kevin Kisner could surprise a lot of people this week, and you're going to get only a couple percentage ownership on him. We have him projected right now sub 3%. I'm going to take a stab at 28-1 on him and see what it gives us.
Love that. Love that call.
Good three hot takes from us, fellas. Let me guess. Rory wins outright. I can't even say that anymore. I do think that Rory is live, as I always do. But you know what? We got to temper the expectations. But you know what? This was a blast. Chat, again, we had so much fun here. Don't forget to check out these new tools that Alex has produced. And we want you inside. Use that promo code Dustin, 2 months of golf for the price of one. It's a great deal. If you have any other questions, again, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on Slack. We're going to get out of here and get ready for what's going to be the greatest 4 days of golf of the year. I cannot wait. Thanks to Jordan Klein behind the glass. Good luck, everyone. This was a blast. We will talk to you guys next Wednesday.